Hello again from Middlesbrough. A 29-year-old man from Newton Aycliffe has undergone surgery after being shot in the leg in an incident in Weardale. Ernest Wingfield of Honister Place was hit by a rifle bullet as he walked with a friend through a field near Westgate. Health and safety officials are investigating an accident at a Hartlepool scrapyard in which a man died. 32-year-old Leslie Walker of Newlands Road, Trimdon Village, was dead on arrival at Hartlepool General Hospital after the accident at Stranton Waste and Salvage in Tomlinson Road. Well, bats are hardly everyone's favourite animal. They've never had a very good image. They played alongside Dracula in too many of those tacky horror films. In fact, they're an endangered species. But help is at hand in North Yorkshire, thanks to the Forestry Commission.
You can tell that winter is now on its way. The nights are drawing in and the mornings are cool and crisp. The birds are about to migrate, and one particular creature that literally hangs around the Dalby Forest here, the bat, is about to hibernate with the help of the Forestry Commission. It's called a hibernaculum, a des res for bats. On the outside, it looks like a giant molehill with a storm drain at the end. Inside, it's nice and dark and damp, ideal for those little creatures to snooze their way through the winter months. The hibernaculum is the work of the Forestry Commission.
I suppose a more glamorous name would be a bat cave, but it's an artificial, it's man-made, a man-made structure for bats to spend the winter in. It's a series of tunnels that connect 3 chambers, and the 3 chambers are intended to give different conditions through the winter months, different conditions of temperature in particular. What they do is they wake themselves up and fly to either a colder spot or a warmer spot. They're constantly monitoring their own bodily condition and moving about within the hibernaculum so that they can see the winter through.
The rangers are still awaiting their first batty visitor of the season. The hibernaculum could house many thousands, although over the years the population has fallen sharply.
We do have a number of caves and fissures, you know, rock fissures, but believe me, there aren't very many. I mean, when you think that we have festooned our forests in the last 10 years with bat boxes, that's fine for the summer, but the countryside in general is short of places for bats to hibernate.
This is definitely a long-term project, as the Commission reckons it'll take 200 to 300 years to see if it's been a success. The question is, will the hibernaculum remain intact?
Anything built by man, I suppose that there could be problems, but we anticipate that this structure will last, I'm hoping it'll last as long as the pyramids.
One of the most important political races in the northeast for years is now underway, and the
terrorist squad that some bottles may have been contaminated by animal rights protesters. The makers of the glucose drink, SmithKline Beecham, admit using animals in their medical research. Meanwhile, a group protesting in York today condemned the actions of the so-called consumer terrorists.
At first, animal rights protesters demonstrating outside York University this morning were unaware of the Lucozade scare. They were trying to draw attention to the alleged unnecessary cruelty practiced on countless creatures in the nearby biology labs. Once told about the alert, they were quick to condemn the actions of some of their colleagues.
Our campaign is a legitimate campaign and a peaceful campaign to show people what's going on. We believe that students on this campus will want these experiments to stop when they find out what's going on. And as you can see, our methods are entirely peaceful.
What do you think of this Lucozade scare?
I think it's counterproductive, and I think that there are better ways of campaigning for animals.
There was no one from the university willing to comment on some of the accusations made during today's demonstration. Meanwhile, throughout the region and indeed across the country, more controversial tactics were being felt. Like other stores, Tesco's in York were busy removing bottles of Lucozade as a precaution, although cans and plastic pouches are apparently safe. The decision to remove the stock came after Scotland Yard warned that animal rights protesters may have contaminated the bottle variety as a protest against the makers of Lucozade, SmithKline Beecham, who use animals in their medical research. This morning, Tesco managers were alerted by their head office, not, it seems, by official bodies such as trading standards departments. So far, both shopper and shopkeeper have taken it in their stride.
We've had a few queries with people that have already bought it. And what we're actually saying to them is if they're unhappy, then bring it back and by all means we'll refund them or exchange for them.
Must be very annoying for you, especially at this time of year.
We're getting quite used to it actually now. It's becoming a way of life in retail with problems that you get with products, withdraw from sales. I mean, so the last major one was Perrier. Yeah, it is a little frustrating because unfortunately it's quite often it's the retailer that gets blamed for it when in fact it's not their problem at all.
The dismembered body of a Tyne cyclist has claimed the line in North Yorkshire. A woman died after her car was hit head-on by a stolen Vauxhall Cavalier SRI containing 5 youths aged between 14 and 16. It happened late last night near Filey. Today, 3 people are still in hospital, including the driver of the stolen car.
The accident happened at around 11:30 last night when the Cavalier SRI, stolen earlier in Bridlington, collided with a Vauxhall Astra in the village of Royal Oak near Filey. The driver of the Astra, 56-year-old Barbara Ross of Grove Hill Road, died instantly. 3 passengers were also hurt, 2 seriously. The stolen car was being driven by a 16-year-old youth who, together with 2 15-year-old boys, came from a children's home near Pontefract in West Yorkshire. Also in the car were 2 14-year-old. They'd earlier stolen another car which was abandoned in Bridlington. Police have described the incident as serious and tragic.
It is criminal activity. It isn't joyriding. There is no joy for the family of Mrs. Ross, and there's certainly no joy for the other people that were in the car with Mrs. Ross, and certainly the people that have committed this very serious offence of stealing a car, which has led to the loss of life.
This afternoon, 3 people are still in Scarborough Hospital, including 2 passengers from Mrs. Ross's car. 38-year-old Mary Norris is said to be poorly. Meanwhile, Mrs. Diana Smith is described as very ill in the intensive care unit. The 16-year-old driver of the stolen Cavalier car is being kept in for observation, and police hope to...
Region. 56-year-old Barbara Goss was also a leading charity worker in North Yorkshire. 3 of her friends were also hurt in the crash which happened near Scarborough. 2 are still in hospital with serious injuries. 5 teenagers were in the other car which had been stolen just minutes earlier. 3 were from a children's home in Pontefract.
The accident happened at around 11:30 last night when the Cavalier, stolen earlier in Bridlington, collided with the Astra in the village of Royal Oak near Filey. The driver of the Astra, 56-year-old Mrs. Barbara Ross, died instantly. Mrs. Ross, a doctor's nurse, was a leading figure in several charities, including the Ladies' Lifeboat Guild. 3 passengers were also hurt, 2 seriously. The stolen car was being driven by a 16-year-old youth who, together with 2 15-year-old boys, came from a children's home at Pontefract in West Yorkshire. Also in the car were 2 14-year-old girls from Ferry Bridge. Another car the boys had stolen earlier was abandoned in Bridlington. Police have described the incident as serious and tragic.
It is criminal activity. It isn't joyriding. There is no joy for the family of Mrs. Ross, and there's certainly no joy for the other people that were in the car with Mrs. Ross, and certainly the people that have committed this very serious offence of stealing a car, which has led to the loss of life.
And a local...
2 homes were built on the land. Although most of the hens were rounded up, some escaped, and Richard has kept on looking after them.
But some living in the new houses say they're a pest and they've called on the local council for help. However, as Andrew Friend discovered, Mr. Hampshire also has quite a few allies.
56-year-old Richard Hampshire has spent the past 7 years battling with bureaucracy. He just wanted to be left alone to look after his hens. He used to live here in the centre of Moulton, but a couple of years ago he was evicted. The land was then sold to Rydale District Council and 41 one-bedroom flats were built on it. Efforts were made to round up the birds, but some refused to leave the nest, and as nature would have it, numbers have grown. Meanwhile, Richard, who now lives in a secret hideout along the riverbank, has been looking after them, keeping an eye on the birds he calls his friends. But some of the residents have had enough of the noise and the mess.
There's 18 cocks that start crowing in the morning at about 3 o'clock. I've heard them as early as 2:30. They even come round onto the car park here. At that end there, if you interview some of those people, they have to clean up every day the droppings that the chickens are fouling the footpath.
Rydale Council is giving him 28 days to get rid of the birds. But Richard and the hens do have some support. Not all the neighbours are getting into a bit of a flap.
I don't want to talk to you. Go away.
Without lying, when we first came here, you said how disgusting it was that people were throwing bread out.
Everybody feeds these chickens, right? Everybody likes the chickens. Owing to the fact that they're practically human. They come up, they look, for you to feed them.
I think maybe a few cockerels should be gone. They make the noise, but...
All he's got is his chips like him, and he's just been slammed right down.
Are you
and it's
telling
like
lies
shooting
again
him.
about me?
Would
you please speak in front of me?
We're not telling lies, we're telling
Well,
the
he
truth.
is. He's telling lies.
No,
in
I've heard
front
him
of
and
me.
he isn't. The
do I
chickens
think-
were here first. We were the incomers, weren't we? We came in and we knew they were there when we came here, and I wasn't bothered about them. But she's come out of a town, I think, and she thinks she should rule the roost.
Meanwhile, Richard is planning to give in to the council and dispose of the birds. Would you say that your chickens are a nuisance?
It's a matter of opinion. For me to say no, because they're mine. But I stand by them. They can't defend themselves. The thing is, the RSPCA, all they do is see that something's put down as humanely as possible. And if I don't remove these birds, if I don't comply with the statute order, this is what would happen.
A Cleveland man accused of stabbing an intruder in his home after he'd been burgled 18